Norway is in Scandinavia, a region of two peninsulas and many islands locked in the northern seas. Part of Scandinavia lies above the Arctic Circle, but the climate is milder than in other northern lands, for the warm Atlantic drift bathes the coasts, and the westerly winds keep the region temperate and wet. The seas provide the main travel routes throughout the region, as well as with neighboring countries. Looking at Scandinavia as a whole, we find that it's rugged and mountainous. Scandinavia has a backbone of mountains hugging its western coast. This is Norway, land of the fjords, arms of the sea stretching miles inland between high mountain walls. And here, back from the coasts, are rolling valleys sheltering clusters of small farmsteads. Here are swift-flowing icy streams that tumble turbulently out of the mountains. And high above, on the mountain summits, lie wide stretches of barren moorland. Across the mountain backbone to the east lies Sweden, also a mountainous country, covered with forests that slope down into broad, fertile plains dotted with numerous lakes. South, across the narrow straits that join the North and Baltic seas, lie the islands and peninsula of Denmark, a country of seashore and dune, changing inland into carefully tilled fields of rich pasture. But more than anything else, a sea-locked land, lying across the busy shipping lanes of northern Europe. But what of the region's people? Long ago, this became the homeland of hardy folk, people of the Viking age, who built these strange stave churches on the fjords and went off to sea in dragon-headed ships. But today, from the quiet country villages to the great busy cities, the Scandinavian people are devoting themselves to learning and the arts, to the development of stable, democratic living. And above all, to working together for the common welfare. The region holds three nations: Norway, with nearly 3 million people, Sweden, with almost 7 million people, and Denmark, with more than 4 million people. About 7 million people live in cities and towns, with about 1 million Swedes in Stockholm and 1 million Danes in Copenhagen. Oslo and Gothenburg having somewhat less than 500,000 people each, and other cities about 100,000 people. A little over half of the people live in rural areas, on the farms and in the villages. Yet little of the Scandinavian land is suitable for agriculture. Of all the land of Norway, only 3% can be used for farming. And of all the land of Sweden, only 10% can be farmed. But in Denmark, the picture is quite different. For in this tiny country, over 80% of the land is under cultivation. The Danish people have learned to make the most of the land they have. Typical of Danish farmers is Canute. Unlike John Bergerson, Canute has stayed on the farm. He keeps a good-sized herd of cattle on his 30 acres of land. He has some pasture, but he has to buy most of his feed from abroad. And, like most farmers, he raises chicken. Canute has a family, a pleasant home, and a good farm. It isn't a new farm, of course, but he keeps it in excellent condition. He is particularly proud of his pigs. Danish farmers specialize in pig breeding, for there's a ready market for Danish bacon and ham in Great Britain and other industrial countries. Each day, Canute sends his milk to the nearby dairy. Like most dairies in Denmark, it's a farmers' cooperative, owned and operated by Canute and his neighbors. Here, their milk is made into butter and cheese, most of it for export. Canute and his neighbors also operate a cooperative bacon factory, where their carefully fattened pigs are processed for market. Often the farmers come together to discuss the business of their cooperatives. These men have learnt to farm successfully by working together. Working together, they have turned the meager land of Denmark into a rich food factory for their industrial neighbors. And together with the farmers of the other Scandinavian nations, they have made agriculture one of the region's biggest industries. But the soil of Scandinavia yields other riches too. To the north in Norway and Sweden stands the timber, vast forests of evergreens carefully tended and cut. Another source of wealth lies in the rivers. In Norway and Sweden, great dams have been built to capture the power of swift-running streams to turn the generators making electricity. This goes out to homes and factories throughout the region. There are also minerals here, among them large deposits of iron ore. This goes to the mills of Sweden and Great Britain. Here in the Swedish mills, the ore is turned into iron and the finest of steels. The metals go to the industries specializing in the making of fine precision machinery and machine tools. Like other Scandinavian products, these are largely destined to be sent to markets abroad. But the craftsmen of old, the silversmiths, the glass blowers, and pottery makers still ply their trades, making wares of a beauty famous everywhere. And the spirit of the Vikings lives on in the fishermen, who sail out daily from Scandinavian ports to bring in fish for the dining tables of all Europe. One of the biggest industries is shipping. All the Scandinavian nations have large fleets, and Norway's is one of the largest in the world. Here at Gothenburg in Sweden, John Bergeson's ship was laid down, with ships for the fleets of many countries. Olaf Thorson has worked in shipyards most of his life. Now, after 8 hours' work, he's on his way home. He lives on a pleasant street in a modern block of flats. Olaf expects his children to be waiting for him to come home, and here they are, little Britta and Eric. This is usually the time when he sits in the living room before supper to talk to the children or read the newspaper. But tonight, Mrs. Thorson has supper ready early. At supper, Mrs. Thorson tells him the news of the day. She talks about the morning's shopping, about Eric's work at school, and of taking Britta to the medical center. According to the custom, Olaf thanks his wife for supper. After supper, Olaf goes to a meeting of the Shipyard Choral Society. Meetings are held once a week, and often the members sing at the ceremonies when ships are launched in the yard. And tonight, they are rehearsing a song they sing for the launching of Norwegian ships. Now we're in Bergen again, and the Fjords is ready to sail. Once more, John Bergeson takes leave of his family. And now we know, as the ship casts off, why the men of Norway and Sweden and Denmark go down to the sea in ships. And we know that every ship that sails from Scandinavia carries with her the hardy spirit that the Scandinavian peoples give to the world.